on the element of reading and what you mentioning Cliff Notes earlier on and Borders, which later became BAM, I worked at Borders. And one thing that I would do, which would often have me threatened to be fired, which I felt compelled to do, if I may tell you, I would refuse the sale of Cliff Notes to students who would come in who obviously did not read the book.
Right.
And this would drive managers crazy. And parents would come up. Now, you might agree with me if I could say, which usually dates a person as being older, when I was younger, we would hide Cliff Notes from our parents because our parents would
not allow us to do that.
Would not allow us to have Cliff Notes. So someone would...
Read the book, Johnny.
That's right. That's exactly it. So someone would acquire the Cliff Notes and share them with everybody else.
Yes.
But when I was working at Borders, parents would be bringing their kids up by the wrist to the desk, to the counter, saying, you better get through this because you better get that grade, where they're more interested in the grade than how honestly they achieve it. So what I would say, which was all bogus, I'd tell them that it's Borders policy, that a student must demonstrate an experience of actually reading the actual text before they can be permitted to buy the Cliff Notes. And they're so nervous about getting ready for this test that they're more likely to believe this. They're more gullible at this point. So a kid would come up and have Cliff Notes. And of all things, it would be something for...
Canterbury Tales.
Yeah, something like, why would you even need Cliff Notes for Lord of the Flies? And and so I might ask, and an exciting book, and I might ask a simple question on it, and the kid would blow it, and then the mother would smack the kid, and I'd take the book and place it to the shelf that was for books to be put back out in stock. And someone would go and snitch, and the manager would come out and say, your job here is to sell books. It's not to refuse the sale of books. To which I'd reply, I don't really think a bookstore is fulfilling its mission if its role in selling books surpasses that of spreading the appreciation for literature.
Oh.
Which they... I mean, it still could have caused me trouble, and it did.
And it's usually the manager who's like, what did that mean?
Now, you also do drawing sessions at the Society of Illustrators in New York City.
I love no place more in the world than the Society of Illustrators, and I've been going there since I was in master's programs with Murray Tinkelman, as I mentioned, and it's an absolute great honor to be hosting drawing sessions monthly at the Society of Illustrators through Bill Donovan, who's the main artist for Christian Dior, who's the co-chair of the Sketch Night series at Society of Illustrators. So I'm there when they have themes like often burlesque or tattooed models, or a term I learned called nerdlesque, which is burlesque taking on pop culture themes.
That seems something you would do, Lauren.
Do?
Nerdlesque.
That's okay.
A compliment. I was so it to be.
And then coming up in March is a lingerie night, and if I ever thought in my life
you would be at a lingerie night,
and hosting a lingerie night,
you're hosting,
drawing,
Now, are you teaching all ages?
I don't know what I'm
going
to wear.
Are you getting all different kinds of people in there?
A moo-moo.
It's that sounds good. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
That's not teaching. That's just facilitating. So, and there are people who come to that event who are serious, veteran, solid, respected, renowned illustrators. And here I run drawing sessions in Scranton, PA, with maybe 8 to 12 people, 15 on a nice night, and everybody has a great seat and can see the model. And that's at the Old Brick Theater on Market Street in North Scranton. That's called Drama Club, and it happens every Tuesday night, 6 to 9. And then I'm attending regularly these drawing sessions called Special Sketch Night at the Society of Illustrators in New York on 63rd and Lexington. And now monthly I'm hosting one where there's 60 to 100 people in the room. And it's quite different. It's on the Upper East Side. So it's pretty wild.
Well, can you talk about the art scene locally? I mean, it seems like there's so much focus on art in the area. I mean, you have things like First Friday and Third Friday in Wilkes-Barre, and there's all these popping up over and over. Pittston has one as well, and there's different types of artists. I see all different kinds of artists, but I mean, is there a community? Are they kind of broken apart in little pockets? I mean, do they support each other? I mean, what is the art scene like here?
The best people do. You're always going to have the people in whatever areas, art especially, because a lot of things go back to being rooted in the insecurities that are caused or amplified in high school, and who can hang out with who by what jeans they wear, what cars their parents drive. And so you're going to have some of that element here and there, but the best people I know and work with well have a strong element of community and camaraderie and collaboration. And I use my alliteration with you because you're a word guy. And
Muchly appreciated.
and
Wearing a Tron t-shirt, which I love.
Thank you. It glows in the dark, by the way.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
he's not talking about his shirt.
That's right.
And
He's talking about that sex solar panel on top of his head.
Yeah, that's right.
another great email address.
Yeah, at AOL, at Netscape.
So, but okay, and a great example of that is you mentioned Third Friday, which I think is this Friday in Wilkes-Barre.
Yeah.
And at the Wyoming Valley Arts League, following every third Friday, they have a drawing session. And that's run by Robert Bergstrasser, who's known by his friends as Bergie. And he's a sculptor in Wilkes-Barre. And he comes to my drama club drawing session on Tuesday nights, as well as the Synaesthesia Social on Sundays. So we get to know each other and encourage our people to go to each other's sessions. And that's when it works great. When we want everyone to do well and it's non-competitive and we cheer each other on. And that's when it goes great. And also there are other artists in the area who have drawing sessions or drawing demonstrations, like Bill Teitsworth. And he's very much instrumental in the Artworks Gallery on Lackawanna Avenue. And we draw together from a model a lot. And it's really helpful. As with anything you do it around your friends. Just like the key thing you said earlier on, Mark, was you surround yourself by people who, and just like you said, even if they're not driving towards the exact same destination and the exact same type of car you are, if you're in sync with each other, just as most of my friends are predominantly improvisational jazz musicians. But it's all a language, and it takes a lot of dedication and time due.
So I'm going to close out this scenic segue that I started half an hour ago, and going back to this social element of the education that you do and finding supportive groups
Now
of
I
people.
see why you're here.
Can
She
you tell
keeps us on
me?
track so we don't start talking about farts and
Oh boy.
And girl burps.
girl burps.
Can you tell us a little bit about Synaesthesia Social?
I'd love to tell you about Synaesthesia Social, because this is something I've created to encompass all these things that I love, which is drawing live music, and friends who like this live music and to see drawing, and who want to have, this might be the rare element, want to have some type of connection with culture and an artistic venue and event in the area without any intimidation, which often is the case, because people feel if they're going to go see some sophisticated music and art taking place, they think people are going to be speaking over their heads. There's going to be some element of elitism, and there's going to be a stuffy type of mentality and attitude. And I want it to be entirely friendly and welcoming. And that's why that word social is the second word in the title. And what synesthesia is the element often associated with a condition where someone can see colors while hearing music or hear notes while looking at colors. But as my great dearest initial drawing teacher, Fred Brenner, brought it to me, as the study of connecting the arts. What type of drawing, as you said earlier on, your friend was talking to you about expressionism and impressionism. Well, just as impressionism is associated with art, there were also impressionistic musicians. So what connects those paintings with those musicians? What elements are in works of music that connects it with works of painting and drawing? So not that we expect people to make art exactly as the music is, but it's a great exchange. And
they're doing it.
And people come in, or people come in and they write in a notebook, or people come in and they do homework on their laptop, or people just hang out.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that as like a question. I was saying that as like, and they're there. Like, that's the point.
You are there.
Yeah.
And anybody can be there.
Right. Anybody.
Right. You don't have to be an artist to, come and appreciate this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great place to see some exciting, creative stuff going on.
It's one of those great opportunities, as you say, if you've fallen out of being an art.
At any place, fallen out of, or
never
sticking
had the
your toe
opportunity
into the pool, or wherever anyone is in life, whether they believe art comes from the left side of your brain or your ankle.
I'm laughing because I just watched Poltergeist, and it's like, go into the light. All are welcome. All are welcome. Is that like, that's, I don't know. I thought that was funny when he was saying that, because I'm like, that's pretty cool, because like everybody can come.
Even if you're a poltergeist, you're welcome.
Even if you're Tangina, you can come.
So, okay, speaking of...
There's no ego, and there's no animosity.
Right.
There's no...
Totally right. We're not putting work up on the wall to see who's best.
Yeah.
And that also goes for musicians too. I've been running this event way back when it was called Drawing Social at Test Pattern Gallery, and it's gone through a few venues since. And of course, I love this home that both the Synaesthesia Social event has, as well as the Drama Club event on Tuesday has at the Old Brick Theater through Diva Productions, run by Paige Belitsky and Bob Belitsky. And they believe so much in making everything go great. And that's when it happens. And once again, it ties something in earlier on when you thanked Rich for bringing all these people to the events he has. There's no fuel like the attaboy. And when someone gives you a pat on the back and says, that's great what you're doing. And that's also another key element in education. When you cheer each other on, then great things happen. And that's not going to weigh really heavily in on the Eureka meter. We know that. But a lot of people act like they don't know that.
Right.
So getting back to Paige and Bob Belitsky, they love seeing these events happen. They love people coming into the Old Brick Theater. Paige every week will bake cakes and treats for people to enjoy, and she puts out coffee and hot water for tea, and Bob will set up the lights according to how people in the room want them for the live music, as well as the artist, or once again for people just coming in there to kick back and watch. So it's a great event. And it also works for the musicians because, as I said, when it started way back in 2006 at Test Pattern, right around this very time, so it's 9 years, it was for musicians on that side of the event to come in on one end who were veteran musicians who wanted to have a venue to experiment and play freely without any type of expectation of the venue, as well as way on the opposite end where you had young aspiring musicians like Chet Williams and Adam Walker Serrano, who's now Adam Catscratch or Penny Pincher, or Luke Shefsky, who just played last week, where they could come in and have a venue when they were playing in their teens. And another thing is it's an all ages event. There's no alcohol. And it's very student driven and targeted.
Well,
but
it's pure.
Yeah. Well, the art is the stimulant.
Yeah.
And the music. So people came in last night to the Synaesthesia Social, and they came from Fashion Institute of Technology, 4 students, young aspiring artists who were really excited about it, bust in from Long Island through Manhattan to Scranton. And they were surprised that this band never played before with each other. They thought these guys play with each other on a weekly basis and rehearse. But it was Wayne Smith on piano, Chelsea Smar on harp, Julian Sparacino on flute and saxophone, and Brian Finelli on poetry. And so it's kind of beat, with a a capital B, like the Beatniks, like
Right,
the time
right.
of
Yeah.
Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg and this jazzy stuff going on with poetry, but it's modernized. And
Yeah.
so these guys are playing in an improvisational language and taking cues from each other. But even though they haven't played together as a trio with a poet, they know their language so well and they're so sharp that they can play together that people in the crowd think that these are rehearsed songs when they're actually improvisations that they're playing for the first time.
That's got to be amazing.
Yeah, come dig it.
And the art that comes out of it is always interesting too, because you're always drawing whoever the featured performer is
Right.
that night.
Yep.
So there's always that piece of art that comes out of that. And then you did, I believe it was about maybe a year ago or so, you kind of did a full gallery of those.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I had a solo exhibition. Thank you. Called Live Ink, and that was really, really rewarding because it wasn't just rewarding for me, but I can bring in all my friends, musicians, poets, and people who have come and performed, and not just show, look what I'm capable of. This is my art.
Yeah.
But these are all my friends, and they're represented on the walls from drawings that I did in that spot when all my friends who are musicians played. And it's a great thing to have that element of cultural community. And then I had musicians playing in the center of the floor. And people come in and they dig it. And I think people drink less.
And you even had the waitresses in their dresses, which I thought was great.
Thank you, Rich.
Tell them about that.
Well, so if you know First Friday, oftentimes if you look at photos of First Friday, there's often crowds in the middle of galleries facing in with a glass of wine talking to each other. And of course, you have a gallery exhibition opening because you want people to be looking at the walls.
What is this stuff on the walls I take for granted? But thank you for the wine and cheese.
That's
Yeah.
pretty good. That's pretty good. That's a great soundbite.
Yeah.
So I put the musicians in the center to push the crowd out towards the walls. And I had Carl von Luger cater the opening just as they catered this party that I had at Synaesthesia Social last week. And you can go and check out some murals that I did on the windows for a winter scene as well as on the walls for a live jazz scene featuring their own live jazz performers, which they have every Friday night. So they catered the show, but I thought, well, a lot of people come to First Friday just to dig into the spread. So cocktail waitressing is the way to go. Cocktail waitresses. And I said, and I was reimbursing most of the performances with drawings, with live art. Let's exchange. So one girl suggested, why don't we get white dresses and draw on them? So in the theme of it being all ink on the wall, I drew in ink on these dresses. I stretched them out on cardboard. And then the girls would be wearing dresses featuring a portrait of each of the musicians who were playing in the quartet that night. Doug Smith, Jason Smeltzer, Jamie Orfanella, and Matt Scola. And come on, what musician isn't going to love to see these pretty, charming, delightful, radiant girls walking around with a dress with a drawing with them on it?
Yeah, that's
And
pretty
it
cool.
ties in. And then they're offering you these stuffed strawberries.
I'm sure it was uncomfortable for them as you're drawing on them while they're wearing this dress, but I mean,
If only it happened that way. But I get asked that question a lot. It's a tough life. So and then this way they would keep the hors d'oeuvres, the appetizers, circulating around where the artwork was.
So they'd be forced to.
Well, it truly is like the carrot.
Yeah.
Even if somebody came for the food to get the food, they were confronted with art.
Yeah, there's always a challenge. How do you win?
And if you're curious to get a little preview of what you see at Synaesthesia Social, we just put up some photos and some video of a recent party that you guys did there.
As we're talking?
No, within the last week.
2015, man.
Oh, excellent.
That's true. I probably could.
That's excellent.
And so you can check those out on the website and kind of get an idea of what you're going to see there. But and we've done a lot of photo galleries in the past of Synaesthesia Social too, and I can't say enough of just how fun it is and how it's so unique for the area, and it's this great little gem. And I really wish more people would take the chance on it and just go and check it out, because I think you said might be a little intimidated. They might say, I don't know, might not be my scene, or I don't know these people, and they might it's a bunch of artists. I don't fit into that, or it might be too pretentious for me or whatever. But it's totally not. I
think there's like this black eye that's been given to artists since a long time ago. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think they're very, artists are, a woodworker is an artist, an iron worker is an artist. I mean, and a plumber is an artist. I think that, as long as you're really good at something that what you do, and you can, find a creative way to do it, I think that's art. I'm the guy that's like, okay, this tripod's art, this microphone's art, like that lamp is art, those speakers are art. Like somebody had to sit and design it and
Where do we
figure it
start
out.
eating?
Yeah. I don't know what that means.
Let's get this place catered.
So I think that people think that, just because somebody does sculpture, or somebody does ceramics, or somebody does, watercolors or whatever, that they think that, those people are like, you're going to get talked at. You're not.
Well,
most people, from my experience, artists want their art to be seen.
Right.
And they want it to be seen by everyone as possible.
And I think it's important for all of these artists to get together and help each other. And that's something that I've really pushed through the site as much as I can, is that I feel like, some of these musicians should be showing up to events like these. And then, the illustrative artists should be going to, I know you're a music guy, so I don't have to tell you to go to shows, but a lot of these artists, I think they expect them, well, show up to my, gallery event or whatever else. Well, you need to show up to, a local band show, and then the local band needs to come and see you, and we need to all work together. And that's what you see happening at things like Synaesthesia Social.
Just to exclamation point what you just said. There was a lot of comedians from your open mic that were here for Buddy Wakefield on Saturday.
Right.
And they've never done that before.
That's nice when that happens. When you bring one crowd from one place to another.
They loved it.
That's cross-pollination.
Yeah,
they loved it, and they never thought that they would.
Right, and that's the thing is a lot of times you're going to surprise yourself by what you find.
Sure,
there. You're going to go to something like this. Like when I met Ted, I was a young reporter, and I had no idea what he was up to or what he was doing, and I was going in blind. I was given the assignment. It wasn't even something
I had
that
a
I
bullseye
knew about.
on the side of my head.
Yeah. Actually, when I showed up, he had this bullseye shaved into the side of his head.
Really?
So which was all different colors and everything. See, this crazy haircut.
Go to Christian Bennett at Alexander Salon.
Yeah, and
Christian,
and we sit down, and it's before, he had it was, I don't know, it wasn't a drawing session per se. It was
that was a chalk mural at the old Vintage on Penn Avenue. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you were doing this chalk mural, which of course then would be erased, and then you'd do it again.
Yeah, they were always erased. But it was about, that was at the time when, with all First Friday events, preparing a gallery exhibition, which then is spotlighted on First Friday, is expensive in putting framing together.
Oh, sure.
And it takes a lot of time to do all the framing. And I thought, well, I'm an extemporaneous artist. I do things right and then they're on the spot. Why don't I just do an extemporaneous gallery and just draw it as it happens, draw people as they come in? And what better way to tie people into an exhibition and have them feeling connected to an exhibition than to make them the subject to the exhibition? So it started off with big chalk walls, and then I thought, man, a lot of these are getting erased, and I liked it in the beginning that they were fleeting, but now they're gone. Right. So I started buying big rolls of Strathmore paper. Now, on you saying bringing crowds to Synaesthesia Social, it's also very reasonably priced, dare to say cheap, at $2 for students. What could students get for $2? Live music for 3 hours. And $5 general admission. And also, I very much should say with great amounts of appreciation that this year, 2015, the Lackawanna County grant has funded an amount to the Synaesthesia Social.
Yeah.
Which is quite nice.
Oh, congratulations.
So thanks go out to the county commissioners for that. So that's really great that we can do some extra things with that. And so hats off and much thanks to the Lackawanna County grant. Also, another thing that's very pertinent is some marriages have come out of the Synaesthesia
Really?
Social. Not just relationships, but people have met their spouses to be. And a friend of mine, John Galoni, who is perhaps the greatest friend of the event since its birth in 2006, said we should start charging a matchmaker's fee because so many, and it was usually, more often than not, it would be a guy in a band would meet a girl who was a student at a local school who would come in and they'd start going out, and several of them went on to get married, and several of them are engaged at the time still with plans to get married as engaged people plan.
Yeah, and a lot of friendships have come out of that too. I mean,
that's the most important thing.
You know,
lots of
that's how we
friendships.
became friends.
That is how we became friends.
We started off kind of doing just the back and forth interview, and then it was like, no, I'm going to hang around. I want to see what he's going to do and how this is going to work and stuff. And of course, he ended up drawing me into it, which you don't want to do as a reporter. You don't want to put yourself in the story. Like that's mistake number one. And there he is drawing me into the story, and I'm like, all right, I guess I'm part of this now.
Oh, in the first interview, I did draw you.
Yeah, you were drawing me, and I'm like, okay, I guess
as
we're
it's
part of
happening
this
here,
now,
right? Yeah, because that's how we connect.
Yeah, and then after we had got along so well, and afterwards I think you had asked me to hang out, and I was like, yeah, I'll just hang out after or whatever. And it was unconventional, but at that point it was like, I saw that there was this cool thing going on, and it just kind of developed from there.
Sure.
And but I mean, all the events that you've done, I think, combine all of those really cool, interesting elements and bring all these creative people together, which I think is so important because, like you said, these creative people feed off each other.
Right.
Like when I worked in retail and I hung out with people who worked in retail, a lot of that creative juice got sucked out of me. I really felt like I was always dealing with, people whining about how much their lives sucked and how the customers sucked and how the jobs sucked. And that's all we did was talk on and on and on about that kind of thing.
Right.
And it really just led everybody to just want to go out to the bar and drink and not really do anything.
Well, take a look around. We're currently experiencing the good old days.
Yeah. You're and so many people, I think, just use that excuse. And I think instead, if they open themselves up to arts and culture, I think they would find much more fulfillment in that.
Yeah. Well, and on that, in terms of drawing away into friendships, most people think artists, as most artists do, sit home in their studios and sweatpants with their dog cuddled up below the desk and draw in isolation, where this is a very social way of drawing into friendships. And also at the Synaesthesia Social, as people watching a live act are typically compelled to watch and enjoy the live music, but as soon as there's a break or at the end of the show, the musicians come down to talk to the crowd, look at what they're doing, and it's only a stage for that element to be able for them to be visible, but not to put them above anybody. They don't disappear backstage. Everybody talks to each other. If people are drawing, the musicians want to see it. Mm-hmm. Or people have questions, like the improvisation. How does this happen if you've never rehearsed this before?
So, since I don't really have a seg here, but I know this is something that Mark wanted to really mention.
This is a seg in the stewed that's cued.
I don't even remember what I wanted to mention.
We obviously we got into the courtroom stuff a little bit, but with Hugo Selinski just being found guilty.
Yeah.
Eric Frein, of course, still being in the news and will be for a long time to come. What was it like to do those, and what was the what were those guys like from your perspective as an artist?
How do you draw them? Like that's and I know like the kind of answer to that, but literally like knowing what they've done, like how do you draw that? Like, do you have to draw them? Like you said before, when you're like, I know when to take a wrinkle out. I know when to. So, like, is there a way to? That's what I'm curious about, because it's like, these people, like,
two
probably
things on it, as you say,
their aura has horns or whatever.
I do have to draw them literally, because I have to draw them as I see them.
Right.
And I can't take liberties. I will say that when I was drawing the illegal immigrant ordinance for CNN when it was back in 2007 when it was
Was that Hazelton?
There's a Lou Barletta.
Yeah.
and-
yeah, the illegal immigration ordinance. And
That made national news.
I was on the work I did was for CNN. CNN was my employer, as well as CNN en Espanol. So I had to learn how to
Two paychecks.
I had to learn how to draw in Spanish very fast, and you could see I still draw with an accent. So on to the cheesy jokes. So, but Lou Barletta, for some reason, maybe God is playing with Photoshop from above, but his face takes on shadows more deeply and darkly than anyone else in the room, which therefore, to someone who's thinking about lighting, or even anyone who doesn't know about lighting, is going to see him looking a little bit more dark.
Sinister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are those times where I had to think, do I ease up on that, even though it's what I see? Because if someone sees a photo from a camera, they are going to blame themselves if something's wrong. They might think that they might have to start using some type of product more, or stop eating some certain kind of food,
Yeah.
or do more exercises, or just not show that side of their face when a camera's in the room, and people get insecure. But if you're drawing them, people will blame you, the
Right.
artist, for
Yes.
making them look like that. And interesting is you threw me a softball as talking about putting wrinkles or not in the face, if you don't mind an anecdote. Drawing a lawyer on that trial for Hazelton was, of course, intense, as they all are. And talking about the passion of pursuing something in art, I don't get excited and jittery about drawing in the courtroom. Well, actually, I do. But I probably shouldn't admit that to too many people, because these trials are there for people doing really horrible things. But I'm not excited about the horrible things that were done. I'm excited about the commission and this opportunity to draw this big news. And so this guy comes up who's a lawyer for Hazelton, and his forehead is corrugated because he's intense.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about two paychecks, there is another business side to being a courtroom illustrator, because I'm hired by a TV channel. Sometimes a newspaper picks up secondary rights, and they are buying the rights to broadcast or publish the artwork.
Right.
Where I retain the property of the original artwork, which then can be.
So it's like licensing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the original artwork is often found appealing to lawyers in the room, or perhaps a witness, or the mayor, who might want to have purchase that drawing for his or her office or home. A lot of law firms make the good decision to buy drawings of the lawyers that are in the court who are in their firm to show in the waiting area, which not only dresses and adorns and immediately brings sophistication to the room by having the presence of art, but it's immediately tied into them. But it also serves as trophies,
Yes.
because they were associated with these high profile courts, or the high profile trials. So this anecdote is, this guy is at the stand and he's cross-examining the witness, and his forehead is all ruffled up and corrugated, and he came over because he was very proud of himself that day, and he wanted to purchase this drawing, which he was immediately discouraged from doing when he saw all the creases I showed in his forehead. And of course, this is journalism. This isn't fashion where you would leave the lines out. However, the next day he came up to me and said, Ted, as he remembered my name because I'm friendly, and he said, I'm going to offer you two things, and one is an apology and the other one is a check. I'd like to buy that drawing. It turns out his wife was watching from Pittsburgh on CNN, saw the drawing, thought he looked very daring, dashing, in command, and sexy, and wanted to have that drawing to hang up at home. So of course, he was going to buy it.
Well, happy wife,
Yeah.
happy life.
There we are. We keep coming around.
So, what about these two trials were unique at all? I mean, granted, the Hugo is finished, but Eric's just getting started. But how was Hugo?
Well, 2015 started off in January with the Eric Frein preliminary hearing, or as those I work with would call the prelim. And then Hugo Selinski's trial started at the end of January. And of course, they're opposite ends of extremes, but that's only because Hugo Selinski's trial is going to be opposite ends of extremes for most people. Because if I give a talk on courtroom illustration, I'll ask the crowd to show me what most defendants do, especially in a murder trial, as soon as they leave the courtroom, as soon as they leave the courthouse, because that's where the cameras can pick them up outside because they can't come in. What do most defendants do, especially in a murder trial, as soon as they leave the courtroom and are picked up by the cameras?
Put their head down?
They put their head down, or they put something in front of their head to obstruct their face. And Hugo, when I drew his trial back in 2006, his defense attorney would push him in front of the camera. And that's the route he's been taking ever since.
Well, because he almost seemed like a vigilante.
Well, it is really like Breaking Bad come to life, where you have
Or falling down, but in a weirder...
Eric Frein. Now, there was a much different atmosphere there, that the temperature dropped much further than it read, as this was some horrible things that happened that led
Right.
into this hearing. And this took the life of a state trooper and injured another who were family men, their husbands, their fathers, their sons, and meant a lot to a lot of people. Now, so that's definitely going to set a different tone. And I got to talk to some of the state troopers who were there, who of course were at that hearing for Eric Frein in great number to be present for security, of course, as well as support. Now, the Hugo Selinski trial is more like something you'd see on TV and would not believe could ever happen. Because, as you say, like vigilante, I never heard that word thrown around before.
Well, because the argument that I heard back then was that, like, you know, I even heard it on Talkback 16 when people are like, this old woman called up like, I don't know why everybody's got to be so mean to Hugo Selinski. So some people out there believe that because, you know, he committed heinous crimes against heinous people, that should almost give him a pass.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of like their view of it.
Right.
So I'm not, you know, and like I said, they're two, you know, equally horrifying, but very opposite in tone and scope and what these guys did.
Sure.
And what the public perception is of them.
Hell,
Sure.
women were falling all over Hugo.
Yeah,
He was like Ted Bundy in like the 80s.
Yeah.
Like people were, you know, Jimmy was telling me, he's like, you know, he's getting jailhouse love letters and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And,
Yeah.
you know, I don't think Eric Frein's really getting that.
Well, you're aware of the band Lugosi's Morphine wrote a song about Hugo,
Oh, really?
and I play it. I don't know if I could. I don't have my phone on me, but I don't know if I could play it here for rights purposes or whatever on your podcast. But
Who knows?
Lugosi's Morphine wrote a song called "Go Hugo Go," and if I give a talk on courtroom illustration, it certainly brings the college students, or if there's a young crowd watching, to reel into with interest for that, to hear
Right.
a punk band chanting over and over again, "Go, go, Hugo, go." But this is
Which
a guy.
is really bizarre.
This is a guy who escaped from prison,
Who murdered people, got put in prison, and then
escaped by tying
put all the
bed
bed
sheets
sheets
together,
Yep.
and
got caught again.
And word was from some guards that I was talking to that as they were making their way down the side of the prison wall, there were they went because he escaped with his cellmate who fell and then became paralyzed from the neck down.
Right.
And as they went by the floor that was for the more criminally insane, so to speak, that a couple of the inmates started yelling that there were men walking down the outside of
And no one
the
believed them.
building, and no one took them seriously.
Right.
They just brought them some milk. So,
In a cookie.
but yeah. So when I just drew this trial recently, something that I never thought would be seen happened right there as I'm sitting a little bit further back than I was able to get ahead later on, thanks to the very kind John O'Connell, who's a caricature artist. Hugo stood as the people in attendance in the courtroom stood as the jury is escorted in, and then the last people to come in, because no one is to be outside to be able to talk to them. And as the jury comes in, Hugo turns and nods pleasantly at each individual juror coming into the room as if welcoming them to a party where he's the guest of honor.
Like the Count of Monte Cristo. He's like,
Did he make eye contact with you at any point? Did he enjoy getting drawn?
Yeah. I don't know. I've been in trials where defendants have given me the nastiest looks.
Yeah.
And well, I'm sure when I did coverage for the Kids for Cash, Ciavarella and Conahan,
Yeah.
those guys weren't very happy about being drawn as well. They weren't happy at all about being on the defense and not as judge,
Right.
As they once were. So, which by the way was interesting when that became a documentary movie, which I'm told is now on Netflix.
it is.
It is.
There is a scene where they show the editor at the time of Times Later, Joe Butkevich, looking through the drawings that I did of the trial. And then with that, I made some phone calls when it was shown in film festivals to go and give talks. And I love giving talks about art because I love art and I love talking to a crowd of people who are very interested in the drawings. And boy, was I wrong, because talking to a crowd of people coming to see a documentary on Kids for Cash are people who want their hatred fueled
Right.
to hate these former judges all the more
Right.
for this horrid corruption. And they don't want to hear me talk about what temperature I keep my ink, as art students will ask. And they don't want to hear me talk about how some guy thought I drew him to look too wrinkly and then his wife thought it sexy. They don't want to hear anything about that.
Right.
All they want to hear is more and more reason to hate these men.
Sure.
Yeah. Did they ever give you shit? Did they ever? It's the whole gossip column stuff of what they wanted to know. Maybe. Yes. No.
Did who?
Like
I thought
those people would want to know more about, like, you know, what were they like? What was the room like? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
were they cold
like,
to you? Were
oh,
they
you
just to
should've-
justify their
You
hate?
should have
Or
drawn them uglier or whatever. And I always have, well, not in a long time, but for a while, I would have friends who would ask me to draw them or perhaps Chewbacca or R2-D2 in the jury box.
you
But
should do that once just to make sure people are paying attention.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'd go real far.
And juror number 3.
And so, but one thing that did happen with the Conahan and Ciavarella trial, when I was first called in to do that, I did that work for CBS, and I was teaching a drawing class at Keystone College at the time, and it was coming towards the end, and I would never pull out my cell phone during a class. However, I saw that it was CBS, and CBS calls you, you pick up the phone and walk outside the class. And that's the reason I'm teaching them there in the first place, because I'm a working professional and making a better teacher to get
Right.
back in a reference into that whole education discussion. So it turns out they say, I have to get to the courthouse in 45 minutes. Well, why is that? Why would they call the day of? Because they weren't giving out an announcement. I'm not jumping too far ahead, right? We all know Ciavarella and Conahan, the people who got money
Yes.
kickbacks for putting.
Yeah, we've talked about the
Yeah,
Kids
if
for
the
Cash
people around
movie
here
on
don't
there
know
before.
what happened there, then that's
Please,
their fault.
yeah, please look
I
it
don't
up
wanna- I
and
don't wanna
watch the
jump
movie
ahead.
on Netflix, which features your drawings.
So, thank you very much. And so they weren't giving any type of advance notice for this trial because they didn't want to give the large, angry mobs of hostile parents a heads up on when to wait outside the courtroom.
Yeah, because they don't know
courthouse.
what the hell's going to happen.
Right.
In fact, they even brought Ciavarella and Conahan into the back of the courthouse. So I had no idea this was happening, and I'm teaching this class, and I probably had my Tron t-shirt on, as you have on now, and I had jeans, and I did not look like I was ready to go into a courthouse, and I didn't have any supplies. But where better place to be than in a college drawing class? And as a good deputy sheriff, I asked to have everyone place their supplies out on the table, and I asked if anyone had a suit in their dorm that might fit me. And of course, it was the biggest kid in the class. So I ended up taking student supplies with me in someone's suit, and it was huge on me. So I looked like David Byrne of Stop Making Sense going into the federal courthouse with a duct
chopping
tape
down your arm. You may ask yourself.
a duct taped box of pastels streaming these rainbow dusty trails as I walked in. But on getting back to Hugo and teaching drawing classes, a trial will usually go 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., sometimes later, and they went later with Hugo because there was so much. And I was teaching a class at a university from 3 to 6, and I told them I'm going to be late, but please stay, and here's what you'll start on. And they said, say no more, just make sure you bring the drawings because we want to see Hugo before the rest of the world sees him at 6 o'clock. And the girls did not know whether they should be creeped out or crushing on him.
That's bizarre.
Yeah. There was so much love for him. There was so much Hugo attraction.
Whereas, Eric, I'd imagine, did Eric even make eye contact with anybody, or was he?
That was so high security that no one was allowed to go anywhere near him, and everyone had to stand as he was walked into the room. And but I'm friendly. I talked to the state police.
Hey, Eric.
No, not to the defendant, but
welcome.
I was speaking to the state troopers, and I found myself in a situation after the trial where I was cleaning up while everyone else was supposed to be gone. And I did do one drawing that had all the state troopers in it just to show in the news the great presence of the state troopers and their support. So they liked seeing that. And so they weren't in any hurry to chase me out. So I ended up being in the room when everyone else was supposed to be gone, and they were leading the defendant to outside the courthouse.
So
which was chilling.
I'd imagine. Well, your art, I mean, really takes you to so many different places. I mean, you probably never know where you're going to be next or who you're going to be drawing next.
Sliding down the razor blade of life.
Like a snail. What do you got going on in the future besides murder trials?
Well, on a note entirely outside of drawing, although it does have very much to do with drawing on the social end, is at the end of 2014, I was brought on to be the ringmaster for the Eclectic Circus. And of course, we're in Scranton, and Scranton loves St. Patrick's Day parades, and parade season is coming up. So I'll be ringmaster for the Eclectic Circus out of the Jim Thorpe area as they are in the parades of Scranton and Pittston and Jim Thorpe. So that'll be quite fun.
And they just performed at Synaesthesia Social, right?
They did at the Synesthetic birthday party. So it was really quite something. And the best comment I got was from Jeff Fowler, who said he felt as though he was in a David Lynch film. Because you had this improvisational music of Jason Smelter and Doug Smith and Jamie Orfanella and Matt Skoll and Dirk Decker. And then there was a second quintet later that came out that was the Skeleton Equation. Well, it ended up being a quartet, which was Christine Oglesby, Adam Catscratch, Chet Williams, and Luke Shefsky. And then you have these friendly freaks from the circus coming out on stilts and spinning plates and hula hooping.
That's the video that we have on the site now, and I got the same feeling watching it. Actually, I thought like this is something out of a movie, like a David Lynch movie or something.
And I very much love and appreciate how you introduced it on your own personal site, and that gave me the friendly shivers. So
should we get to the last word then?
The last word.
Let's do the last word.
All right.
Word.
All right. I've been.
That was it.
Are
That
you
was the
holding
last
on?
word.
Yeah.
What's the last word?
The last word is
Ted's not listening to the podcast.
no, but he will be now.
I usually I catch him. Maybe I just don't hang in there until the last word.
Yeah.
But
We run long.
Did you dig? You've great stamina, Mark. I've heard all over.
What's my girlfriend been telling you?
So, but at the party at Synaesthesia Social was Emperor Vanity, who is the true, honest to goodness, legitimate, official, authentic, bona fide emperor of the Royal Imperial Court of New York City. And he was there at Synaesthesia Social, and he's the absolute excess of extravagance. And that kind of upped everybody's game there in terms of how they dressed, because they knew he was going to be there. And he very well could have shown up with a birdcage on his head. And I'm not exaggerating, because he has been known to wear a birdcage on his head with attire that goes appropriately with a birdcage on his head.
I've seen the photos. The guy's a very interesting dude.
He's really interesting and as kind as could be.
Yeah.
Just like many of the people you'll find as you'll all come to Synaesthesia Social on Sundays.
Yeah, please come check that out.
What time is it at? It's
6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
At the Old Brick.
The Old Brick Theater on 126 West Market Street in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Right next to Sterna's.
Door to Sterna's with a mysterious entrance in the rear. It's very mysterious.
All entrances in the rear are mysterious.
Yeah. So
just let you know that.
Do a Netflix cleanse.
And then go.
Record The Walking Dead and watch it some other night. And come to Synaesthesia Social.
You'll be home in time for Downton Abbey.
Ugh, DVR it.
It's not the point about...
All right, the last goddamn word.
Yep. Let's.
Have you been holding on to this one?
No.
Should we get context before?
Yeah. Well, we did this a while back, and we talked about it a while back. So I expect this guy. I expected this guy to.
Whoa, wait, is this Will Robinson?
It's
No!
He's back. Okay.
Fuck yeah!
For those who hadn't heard, we had a troll on our site a while back that I gave a stern lashing to, and basically drove him off. And
very eloquent.
Yeah. He totally deserved it. He had it coming.
But it was as polite as possible. It was
me
malice.
being extremely sarcastic.
Right.
And just pointing out the fact that this guy was being a troll and just being nasty to be nasty.
Matt LeBlanc was your master in 97. Sorry.
And this guy...
Is he listening? Oh, God, I hope he's listening. Just keep going. I don't want to... I'm fantasizing.
Well, of course. Now... back in December, we had talked about this. The video of why people, bash Scranton and why people talk about it. And the BBC did a thing that was basically in defense of Scranton and very, very well done. And we had talked about it before.
BBC?
Yeah, the BBC was here in Scranton.
The British Broadcasting Network, or do you mean Baptist Bible College?
Both,
yes. And they did this great video, and we got some good response just by reposting the video and talking about it.
The producer of the video or whatever is from Scranton.
He's from Scranton. Yes, exactly. That was the connection.
Of the BBC.
Yes,
there was
the British Broadcasting,
the internationally acclaimed.
Yes.
There's BBC in America.
Yes,
there
is. He's stationed in America. He does stories for.
You
BBC.
should picket through the streets of Scranton,
Chinatown.
Of Scranton chanting that there is BBC in Scranton.
The best.
I think 4 people would give a damn.
I would. The best weather is when it's reported by Chris. Oh, what's his name?
Yeah, he must be that good.
Fox, like Guy Fawkes, but he says the weather the best. He says Maryland instead of Maryland. I find it enjoyable. I don't know.
Matt Denzico is the guy's name, by the way, who was the
producer, the
BBC journalist.
Yeah.
I like watching BBC for weather.
Okay,
Lord,
so anyway,
say.
This guy who calls himself Bill Danger Robinson, who did not like all of my comments about his name, unfortunately.
And his final comment, as far as we know, was
Hana,
right?
Just because he had to say something, because I had to just point out the fact that
was a name you called him. I thought you said as far as we know, like referring to him.
No.
That's a name we know.
It's from now on. We'll.
No, this guy's
his name's Wino is not.
This guy's a wino.
Will
I guess you could
Danger
say that.
Robinson is totally just as good as, or even better than Wino.
Yeah, yeah. So he has to comment on the video and say, racism in Scranton / Wilkes-Barre / Hazleton is about as bad as it gets in the Northeast and is just a tad less severe than your average antebellum Southern city. Christian.
Wait. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
Christian Rudder's book, Dataclysm, says people in West Virginia search Google for the N-word more than any other state. What he fails to mention is that people in Northeast Pennsylvania search for the N-word even more than the folks in proud and racist West Virginia do. Now, first of all, I'd just like to say, citation, please. Where did you get this information that you know for a fact that people in this area just search for the N-word? Like, I'm not sure if racists really do that. Like, does a racist sit down and go,
No, they just
I'm
say
thinking really racist things.
Let
I'm gonna
me
just
look them
Google
up on
the
Google.
N-word. Yeah, I'm just going to Google them over and over. Like, I love saying the word fuck. I say it all the time.
It rolls off your tongue.
Right,
It feels
but I can't
delicious.
say the last time that I just sat down and was like, I really like the word fuck. I'm just going to keep typing it in Google over and over just to see what happens. So I don't know what
I know what happens.
I just don't get.
What the fuck? So okay,
Okay,
wait.
and he mentions a book too, so he really wants to sound like, hey, look, I'm a guy who reads books,
Right.
See,
which I'm not. So
Yeah. Well, he's already a step above you.
He
See,
is.
in his comment, he's already saying how much smarter he is than
yeah,
you.
but is he saying so he thinks that okay, based on his statement, West Virginia
yes,
is very racist.
right.
Okay.
And
He's
West
saying according
Virginia-
to this book,
And West Virginia likes to Google the N-word.
apparently,
Okay, now Northeast PA,
yes,
which is not a state,
yes,
the people from Northeast PA
yes.
Google the N-word more than the state of West Virginia.
Or is he referring to the people per capita based on the region
No,
that he's citing?
let's not go deep into this.
No,
'cause
I
don't
need to
think
know the
this
numbers
guy-
that he's actually dealing with here
He didn't
because
give
that's really
numbers.
not very fair.
So what I'm thinking is maybe like 7 people Googled it in West Virginia.
Also, fundamentally, I don't see the correlation between Googling a word and having some sort of
Of racism.
derogatory
Right.
outlook on life
Yeah.
Maybe they were looking up Selma.
or lyrics to a ridiculous song.
Yeah.
It could be that too. I mean, if
Jeez,
you're painting with a pretty broad brush,
especially a rap song. I think that's practically every other word anay. So there you go.
So
Maybe they're just really big fans of rap music.
right. Could be.
Can
but-
you?
I'm just blown away that this guy took. I mean, this was posted back in December, so he had to dig through the site. Like he's really thinking of like, all right,
You've been
I really got to
bothering
be, I got to be nasty and negative about something else.
Yeah, how many
What can I
posts have you
find on
done
the
since
site?
December?
Hundreds.
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 So he had a like backlog
Yeah.
to
yeah.
find something he could take a shit on.
Right. Exactly. And so, of course, as any good troll does, he found it.
I don't think he's a troll.
He
No?
might be
No, I
completely
just think he's an
serious.
asshole.
I think they're one and the same.
No,
Nah,
no,
trolls
no.
are totally different. An asshole's just an asshole. He's an internet bully. Like a troll's an internet bully, just like trying to make your life difficult. This guy's trying to sound smart and superior based on nothing.
Right. Well, if you look at his,
And just because it's written in a book, that don't mean it's true either.
and all you have to do, which
Which is why I watch movies, which are real.
which is great about our comment system, is we use Discuss, which all the other media sites in the area use as their comment system. So if you click on anyone's profile, you can pull up their comments
On everything.
and any other site that uses Discuss. And you could see, I mean, this guy every couple hours is commenting on someone's site, whether it's,
Has he ever seen anything positive?
I haven't found one yet. I haven't found one.
Now where it's like,
positive
good job.
comment. Never. Well, that's the thing is
Borderline optimistic.
when you think about it, everything on NEPA Scene is mostly positive. Everything. So there's really other than him, jumping on an artist and just saying, you suck. I mean, there's not really much you can say about any of those stories. So
Yeah, which is still just an
he has
opinion.
to find, the one the one headline that has a negative word bashing in it and jump on that. So it of course it attracts him, like a.
So wait, when did he post this week?
Yeah, just 4 days ago.
Did you reply?
No, I didn't say anything yet because I figured we'd just bring it up on the podcast because it's just too funny not to.
Can you, as your reply, just write this, right? Just be like a real dick. So just write, greetings, Will Danger Robinson. I have read your comment. I didn't think that it would be appropriate this time to reply via message and comment board. Please stay tuned. Within the next 7 days, you will have your video response.
Okay.
And then I want to see if he'll respond to that.
Right.
So embed the YouTube link or send it to him or whatever you got to do.
Sure.
And we'll be like, and I'll just.
I don't know if he listened to the last one because I did
He
tell.
didn't.
I
He
did.
didn't.
I totally told him to go listen to it, and
Yeah, but you didn't tell him why.
and
You
he
should
just
say-
kept going.
You should say, Bill.
We've been talking
We
about you for
specifically-
weeks.
I think it's an ego thing. I think we need to say, like, Bill, we specifically talked about you.
Right.
We're concerned.
We're concerned about your mental well-being.
You have too much negativity in your life.
Right.
We do not hate you. We would like to offer you an internet hug, or give us a PO box. We will send you some chocolate covered strawberries or something.
Cookies.
Oatmeal raisin, chocolate chip, sugar. Don't care. I'll pay for it. We'll get him something good. Just to realize that not everything in the world is shitty, and you're not and you're not a pigeon, and you don't have to shit on everything.
I feel like maybe he thinks he's like
Guys like him keep places like this having the opinions about themselves.
right.
That's what pisses me off about Bill Danger Robinson.
Maybe he's like Batman. Like Batman's pretty miserable. But he fights for justice all the time. He's a vigilante.
This guy isn't fighting for justice.
Well, but he thinks he is. That's the thing. Is he's like this delusional Batman. Like he thinks he's fighting for justice. Like he thinks by saying this that he's making some sort of great statement that's going to change things, or that's going to like it's going to open our eyes. Like, oh man, I never knew that Northeast Pennsylvania was remotely racist. But now with your fake statistics that you made up just now, I'm so convinced of your
I'm okay.
brilliance.
I'm okay if he cites it.
Right, but
Give me a bibliography, Bill.
Sure.
Just don't cite Wikipedia.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't.
But the other thing too is like based on this crazy person's book, because anybody can get published now. I'm sure I could get published, and I don't know how to write. So I don't know. Like, and the other thing too is like we're working on making it available for people to call in.
Sure.
Bill wants to call in. We'll happily talk to him
Yeah.
just to hear his side, and it's like why do you look so unjustly and unfairly at all these things, and paint your hate with a paint roller and not
Yeah, I mean, I'm just flipping through his comment history, and it's like it's just negativity upon negativity.
nothing positive. Like you can't find like somebody like Pinterest had like a nice floral arrangement, and he never just said anything.
I mean, he's on like the Onion's AV Club, and he's saying negative shit. Like
The Onion's not real.
Well, the AV Club is. That's like
Yeah.
They have
Wait,
like
so
Julie
he's
Gibbons
also
and-
he's like a film guy.
I guess so. He must be.
All right, so he likes this. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So
He likes movies.
So yeah, Bill likes movies, might like comic books, probably a fan of music,
Yeah,
maybe art.
He must like comics, or at least cartoons, because his which I'm weirded out that his avatar is not anything from Lost in Space. It's Spider-Man from the '60s cartoon sitting behind a desk. It's actually a very common meme where
And I knew exactly what you were talking about.
He's sitting behind the desk, and there's a picture behind him of himself.
I
sitting
thought it
at
was the
desk.
emoji of smiling pile of poo. I thought that that's what it might have been.
No,
I don't want to call. Look,
I want to say that he's actually like a smiling piece.
I
of
don't
poo.
want to. I don't want to
Going,
spend.
you're
I don't want to.
welcome.
I don't. I you know. I love the fact that everybody has an opinion, and I love the fact that we live in a country where you can have opinion. And I also love the fact that we live in a country where you can disagree with someone's opinion.
Yep.
That being said, where what Bill is doing is being negative, and I think it's unfair for us to. I mean, it's very it's.
I'm just
very
unsure
fun.
what he's talking
No,
about.
it's very fun to give him shit.
Right.
But he's not here to defend himself. So
Sure.
I think it's kind of unfair, and I'd like to extend the invitation to have him either through correspondence via the interweb, or call in.
Yeah.
Be a guest. We'd be happy to have him on. You know what I mean? Because it's I don't want to spend I don't want to. It's not the Spanish Inquisition. I don't want to Well, why do you feel this way? Well, maybe he'll have some good points, and that he doesn't have, maybe he's just typing real fast and can't get it all out. Maybe he needs an opportunity to just, let it go.
You're very kind, Mark.
Going back to the beginning of our podcast, kindness kills you faster than a bullet.
Right.
I'll still let Bill come on.
Okay.
All
I'll
right.
still participate with Bill.
Fair enough.
I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he's just having a bad day or year.
Or life.
Or in any of those things, and maybe we can shine a little sunshine up his ass.
Hey, I'm willing to try.
Yeah,
All
I got a
right.
flashlight.
Fair enough.
All right, so all right, Ted, thank you so much for being on, man. We appreciate
And
it.
Thank
Yeah,
you, Ted.
Thank you.
Ted was drawing me as I talked, which like some people would be
All
I
it
think,
is
weirded out or intimidated by that, but I'm so used to it by now after hanging out at so many of Ted's events.
He
And
drew us too.
he also drew them as well.
Show it
so
to the microphone.
We'll,
Show it to the microphone.
we'll have those drawings up on the website too for you to see.
Oh,
We
yeah.
appreciate you taking the time, man. Even
of course,
to draw
great.
and let us know. And you know what, man, I'm really jazzed about what you're doing.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
I think it's a
I
really cool
appreciate it.
thing.
And thank you sincerely for having me on.
Sure.
And that's all she wrote. Let's go home and go to bed.
Okay. See you
See everybody.
See you next time.